We have asked what's it like in so many different capacities. What's it like being this, doing this, and so on. But I imagine when you're sitting at home watching the 10 o'clock news, and the guy or the girl in front of the map of the United States gives you that thermal occlusion stuff, and you say, what's it like being a weatherman or woman or weather guy or meteorologist or climatologist? Dr. Randy Cerveny from ASU, what's the difference between a climatologist and a meteorologist?
Well, that actually is something that's only come about in like the last 30 years. There really weren't that many climatologists 30 years ago. Meteorology is the study of day-to-day weather. Climatology is the study of longer-term weather, whether it's monthly, seasonal, decadal, thousands of years. Climatologist looks at the big picture, and the meteorologist looks more at the small picture.
Well, all right, at the smaller picture that we watch at home, the TV weather forecasters, do you have a seizure when you're watching them? I mean, as an academic, what do you think?
Well, again, it depends on the situation. That in places where weather is not the critical issue of the day, you can get away with having a person that does the weather that isn't a trained meteorologist. But in other places where weather plays a big role in the livelihood of your activities, like in the Great Plains, where they start the news forecasts with 10 minutes of weather before they go to the national news, because weather is of such importance, yes, they have to be meteorologists there. So like Oklahoma.
And when research is done, even in an area like Phoenix, Arizona, weather is at the top of the list of what people want to know about on the television news and radio news too. And it's kind of peculiar here because it's a matter of it's going to be hot or it's going to be warm or it's going to be cold, but then it's going to be warm.
Yeah, except for we got that 2 months, 2 to 3 months period of the monsoon. And that's where we actually earn our big bucks, is when we start forecasting those individual thunderstorms that pop up over Arizona and can hit one place and not another. Those are extremely hard to forecast, and we get paid the big bucks for that.
All right, so collecting your big check at ASU, on your way from your office over to the bank, do you run into people like the TV people do that blame you when the weather's lousy?
Oh, absolutely. My family, I cannot give them a forecast at all, because whatever I will say will turn out to be totally wrong, and then I never hear the end of it. So,
the accuracy, however, of forecasting is better than it ever has been, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Why?
We've got tools that we didn't have just 20 or 30 years ago.
Satellites?
Satellites have gotten much, much better. The other big thing that we have now is a new radar system. You hear them talk about it on TV. It's called Doppler radar.
Yeah.
But most people don't really know what it is. Doppler radar is an X-ray machine for clouds. And old radar could tell us that a cloud was there. Doppler radar looks inside of it and tells us what the winds are doing inside of that cloud. So it's a way to actually see things happening long before, say, that tornado touches down or that hailstone starts to fall. We can actually see it in the cloud first, and that's really helped our forecasting.
What's your greatest concern climatologically for Arizona in the future?
Drought by far. Some of my students who are now international experts on climate change, one in particular, Dave Staley out of the University of Arkansas, studies tree ring analysis to try to figure out what past climates were like based on the width and the variations that we see in trees. Well, for the Southwest here, he found that there have been times in our history where drought doesn't last for, say, 5 years or 10 years, but he's come across periods where drought can last for 150 years.
But we're in the middle of one right now. Nobody seems to be particularly concerned. And we've got golf courses with lakes, and we've got sprinklers for our lawns. So why should we be worried?
Well, it's because we've done some good planning and making sure we've had enough water in our flood diversion dams up on the Salt and the Verde rivers that we can handle that kind of situation. But if we have year after year after year of drought, not just these 15 years that we've had so far, but if it keeps on going on to the future, that's going to start to eat into our supply. And then eventually we're not going to have any water to turn to. So long-term drought is something that I think is one of the biggest problems that our state has to kind of look at.
You know why I pay attention to him? He's a president's professor at ASU, Dr. Michael Crow, said, "You're a real big deal." So here's the final test. Is man responsible for global warming?
We are responsible for changes in our climate. We have definitely can say that Phoenix, for example, is warmer than the outside surroundings, and it's due simply to us, that the asphalt and the concrete that we have in the city makes our city a lot warmer than it would otherwise be. We know that we have an impact regionally, that we found, for example, that it rains more on the weekends off the coast of the eastern seaboard because of all the pollution that builds up during the course of the week. It causes it to rain more on the weekends. So we know we have even a regional effect. The global effect becomes problematic because our planet is so big and there are so many other things that can be working on it that trying to tease out the one little part that's associated with us becomes hard, and there's a lot of debate about that. In truth, yes, we are having an impact on our climate. How big of an impact and how long lasting, that's still, I think, something that's being debated.
The very fact, though, that we recognize now that Phoenix not only has been warmer, but is going to continue to be, is why you moved here from Chicago, isn't it? Well, what's it like being a meteorologist? You just found out here on KTAR.com.